When our parents passed away, I was 30 and Ethan was barely 17. He was still in high school, all wild energy and teenage confusion, and I had just started my first real job as a nurse in a small town outside Portland. That night, at the funeral, I promised our mother that I'd take care of him. "Don't worry, Mom," I whispered. "I'll make sure he finishes college. I'll be his home." And for years, that's exactly what I did. I worked extra shift, paid his tuition, cooked, cleaned, and sat through every one of his late-night breakdowns before exams. Ethan wasn't just my little brother. He was the last piece of my family. And when he graduated in a crisp suit I'd saved 3 paychecks to buy, I cried harder than I ever had before. When Ethan got married to a woman named Lauren, I was genuinely happy for him. She was beautiful, smart, and confident, a marketing consultant from Seattle who carried herself like she always knew where she was going. At first, she treated me warmly, called me sis, helped with dinner, even bought me a scarf for Christmas that first year. I liked her, or at least I wanted to. As the months passed, I began to notice small things. The way she'd roll her eyes when I offered advice. The way she'd subtly move my cooking utensils to another drawer just for convenience. Or how she'd make little comments when Ethan and I laughed about our childhood. "You two are so close," she'd say with that smile that never reached her eyes. At first, I ignored it. I told myself she just needed time to adjust. After all, I had lived with Ethan long before she came along. Change was never easy, but I was wrong. Time didn't soften her. It sharpened her. One Saturday morning, I was baking Ethan's favorite lemon pie. Lauren came into the kitchen, holding a cup of coffee, perfectly calm, perfectly poised. "Mara," she said softly, "Ethan and I were talking last night. You've been amazing, truly, but we think it's time you moved into your own place." I froze. The oven beeped behind me, but I didn't move. "My own place," I repeated quietly. "You've been here since we got married," she said, her tone as smooth as silk. "You deserve independence, space to live your own life." Ethan was standing behind her, not meeting my eyes. He mumbled, "It's not about you, Mara. It's just time." After everything, that's what I'd become, an inconvenience of time. I took a deep breath. "You're right," I said softly. "It is time." That evening, I packed my bags. I didn't cry, not even once. Before leaving, I knocked on Ethan's door. He looked guilty, like a child caught in a lie. I smiled faintly. "Take care of yourself," I said. "And her." Then I walked out. No shouting, no drama, just quiet dignity. The first few weeks were the hardest. I rented a small studio apartment above a bakery. The air always smelled of sugar and coffee, but the walls were bare and the loneliness was heavy. I got a part-time nursing job at a small clinic nearby. Most days were quiet, but my hands stayed busy, and my mind had no room for bitterness. At night, I'd sit by the window, watching the lights of the town flicker against the dark sky. Sometimes I'd wonder if Ethan thought about me. Then I'd shake my head. There was no use wondering. I began sewing again, something I hadn't done in years. It started small. A torn sleeve, a pillowcase. Then a neighbor asked me to alter a dress. Word spread. Before I knew it, I was sewing for half the town. I used my tiny living room as a makeshift workspace, a small sign by the door reading, "Thread and Grace, handmade with care." It was simple, humble, but it was mine. 2 years later, everything changed. A local boutique owner came by to pick up a custom order. She looked at my design, soft, elegant, unique, and said, "You have a gift, Mara. I'm opening another branch in the city. Would you consider designing full-time?" It felt surreal, but I said yes. In just 6 months, Thread and Grace became more than a side job. It became a brand. My designs started showing up on social media, then in small magazines. Soon, I had a small team of seamstresses and a cozy downtown studio. For the first time in decades, I wasn't Ethan's sister. I was Mara Bennett, owner of Thread and Grace, independent, self-made, and at peace. Then one afternoon, everything came full circle. It was raining, the kind of gray, endless rain that made the world feel heavier. I was at the shop, checking orders, when the door opened. Ethan stood there. He looked older, tired eyes, unshaven face, a sadness that clung to him like fog. Behind him, Lauren lingered, arms folded, her designer purse hanging limply from her shoulder. "Mara," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I nodded and led them inside. They sat on the couch while I made coffee. Ethan stared at the floor. Lauren fidgeted with her ring. Finally, he spoke. "I messed up," he said. "Lauren and we lost the house. Her business failed. I've been out of work for months." I sipped my coffee. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said simply. "I know I was awful to you. I said things I shouldn't have. But Ethan's sick. He needs treatment, and we can't afford it." I thought maybe. Her words trailed off. I looked at them both. Once, I would have given up everything for Ethan. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I can cover his treatment, I said calmly. But that's all I'll do. Ethan looked up, eyes wet. You'd still help me, after what we did. I smiled faintly. Because I loved you before you forgot how to love me back. Lauren lowered her gaze. Shame can be louder than any words. A few months later, Ethan recovered. He stopped by occasionally, bringing flowers or homemade cookies. Lauren came too, sometimes quiet, polite, eyes heavy with regret. They never asked to move in with me again. And I never offered. But one day, Lauren asked softly, how did you do it? Build all this, after everything. I looked around my studio, the fabrics, the laughter of my small team, the hum of the sewing machines. By not wasting time on revenge, I said. The best payback is peace. She nodded, eyes glossy. I think about that day, she whispered. The day I asked you to leave. I don't know what I was thinking. You were thinking small, I said gently. And small thinking always costs more than it saves. Years passed. Thread and Grace grew into a brand featured in national magazines. I started mentoring young designers, teaching them how to turn pain into purpose. Every now and then, I'd get a text from Ethan. Proud of you, sis. And I'd reply, thank you. That was enough. Because sometimes, revenge doesn't look like anger. It looks like peace. It looks like building a life so beautiful that those who hurt you can only look back and wish they hadn't. On the 5th anniversary of Thread and Grace, I hosted a small charity event to fund education for single women starting over. Ethan came with Lauren. They stood quietly at the back, watching as people congratulated me. When it was over, Ethan hugged me tightly. You really made it, Mara, he said. No, I said softly. I just stopped waiting for others to make room for me. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. You didn't deserve how I treated you. I smiled. You were my greatest teacher, Lauren. Without your cruelty, I'd still be living in someone else's shadow. They left soon after. I watched them go smaller now, humbled, quiet. I didn't feel hatred, just closure. Because real revenge isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you never needed them in the first place. Silent revenge isn't fueled by anger, it's powered by grace. When you rise without bitterness, the world notices. And those who pushed you down end up bowing to your peace.